Hi, my name is Monica Fernandes. Here at Evolution Essentials, I want you to love yourself first. That's why I teach people how to lead a wellness lifestyle with holistic tools such as essential oils and Reiki. So you too can have more love, more health, and more balance in your life. I felt inspired to connect with my loved ones, my friends, and contacts all over the world. They are experts in their field. I wanted to share with you our conversations and how we deal with stress and crisis. So if at any moment in your life you're feeling down, this show is for you.
Hi.
Hey, querida, how are you?
Very good. Welcome to Evolution Talks. And this is
Hey,
my friend, Maria Lawton.
hi,
And
everyone.
Maria is a famous author of a cookbook called Azorean Cooking, From My Family Table to Yours. And she's also the star of the TV show called Maria's Portuguese Table. So check that out. We'll link all of this stuff in the description. And
Yeah,
so welcome.
welcome. I mean, I love all these accolades. I didn't know
It's
I
true.
was a TV star.
You are a TV star. Absolutely.
Just
International, my dear.
it, uh, it, it's Maria. I'm Maria, the
I know.
green bean. I'm just the green
One of
bean.
my besties, you know,
Yeah,
that I'm
yeah.
that I'm glad. And we've got a mascot behind you,
Oh
Miss
my God. Yeah,
Gracie.
Miss
Yep,
Gracie.
yep,
I always, no matter when I am either recording or doing anything at all here at home,
yep.
she is right next to me. She never leaves my side, which is really cute.
Well, she's a good mascot. She's a good
She
mascot.
really is. She is.
Well, I wanted to kind of touch base and uh, you know uh, discuss a little bit about how you personally or people you know, but you personally mostly, how you deal with stress and in a moment of crisis. And so I wanted to chat a little bit and um, you know wanted to find out from you, like, what's some of the things that you do when you have a bad day.
Um, you know, the thing that I know right off the bat when I'm under stress
Mhm.
and I cook, I bake, I cook. It's a type of thing where I kind of need to keep my head busy in a certain way. And so I am cooking, I am baking. Baking bread is an amazing thing for stress or baking anything where you need it, where you need to not need that dough and you're like, punching it down and you're
Yeah.
stretching it out, because it's easier to do that, and
Mhm.
get everything out that way, but then the bad part of that is then they're stress eating. And I am guilty of that as well. So, and that's something that I'm trying to stop doing. But with stress eating, sometimes you're just eating and you're not even thinking about you
Not
eating.
realizing it, you're not doing it
Right.
consciously.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that right off the bat is number one that I do.
Well,
When
cooking, when you're talking about cooking, I start thinking about all the smells,
Yes, it's
and
comforting.
it has a very aromatherapeutic effect when you
Yes, it
are
does.
it's talking about bread and baking and, you know, whenever you're cooking with spices and different things, and that
Absolutely.
just, creates this whole atmosphere in your home, right?
Absolutely. And you hit it on the nose on that one because there are certain recipes that I make that are my mom's or my grandmother's recipe. So that when I'm making something and I know when it's perfect. I know when the recipe is perfect, when it smells. My kitchen smells like, that sense, that memory, that food memory,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because that's the one memory that stays with us the longest
Yep.
is food memories.
That's
So
right.
when I smell that and it's like
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're like moved, you're in that kitchen with them.
Absolutely. It's the one sense that affects your limbic system that accesses memory. And so
Absolutely.
when if you have a certain memory of a certain smell, it
Yep.
puts you right back. It's like time
Yeah.
traveling. think.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I've learned to work with stress, and that happened with when I lost, after I lost my grandparents and my parents within very short amount of time between each other. Really, it was my brother-in-law. It was a string of people. It was like my brother-in-law. It was my grandparents, my parents, and all within a very short period of time. And and when you go through loss, whatever that loss may be,
Yes.
you kind of for me, I was the strong one in the family because everyone else fell apart, but I was the strong one. I was the predetermined strong one. So I had to hold everyone together, and I could not go through what they were going through because I had to hold everyone together. But what happened?
The glue of the family.
That's right. So, but that stress is still there.
That's a big responsibility.
Yes, it is. So when all of a sudden you have time to let that go, that stress, if you're not dealing with that stress, it's going to make you sick.
You have to process it.
And I was getting very sick, and I didn't realize why I was so tired, why I was so achy, why I was, all of these different things. And I had to say, oh my God, I am now going through all of this, and yoga and meditation really helped. That was something that I had never done before. And it was a friend of mine who said, have you ever done yoga? And just to kind of like relax your mind and meditation. And for those that, say, meditation, prayer is meditation.
Absolutely.
If you say those prayers over and over and over again, it's the same way as you chanting certain meditation.
It's like a mantra. Yes, absolutely.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So whether it's one way or the other, you can do this no matter what, because some people go, well, I'm very religious. I don't do those things. Well, I don't want to hear it. You can use it with prayer.
You don't have to be religious to meditate or pray.
No.
Connect, right?
Exactly. But those were things that you hear from people. Oh no, I don't do that because
Yeah.
Now get over it.
Yeah.
Get over it.
They need to do it. Try it.
Yeah, exactly.
They need to try it.
But that helped me. That helped me the most. And let me tell you, I've been trying to do some meditating, but sometimes when things are in a crisis, your mind kind of goes, and you have to kind of let it. I got to let this kind of slow down, because then things happen where you can't sleep. You're
That's
not, all of these things.
It affects all your body systems.
Yeah, it really does. People don't realize that. It really is all tied together. And
we're all connected. Everything is connected. So
absolutely.
There's just different tiers and different layers of things, but it manifests sometimes at the same time, or sometimes gradually. So
so those were things that I know helped me, with how I deal with stress. And I know the other thing that I do also, that I love to do, is paint. I love to draw. I love to draw, and I love to paint. And that was something, I think, even as a little child, I always loved to doodle. Yeah. And I never was one where, it has to be perfect for it to be a beautiful painting.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
No, it doesn't. And I would see sometimes abstract painting, and I would go, oh, I can do that. That's like so easy. Why, that's an easy thing to do. But it really isn't. It's abstract, but there's intention in that abstract. It's a whole different thing. But I do love to paint, and I do love to draw, and that, again, it's very relaxing. It's a very relaxing.
That's you're creating something. You're using an art form to create something that is also helping you deal with whatever is happening, right?
Right.
I do that with writing. I love writing. So sometimes just, even if it's sometimes people talk about the morning pages, start writing first thing in the morning, and even if it makes no sense, even if it's a dream that's completely gibberish, it doesn't matter, because after a while, maybe something interesting will come of
That's right.
that, or later on it might make sense, or
That's
it
right.
might not. It doesn't matter, but it's kind of sort of like that, just
Yeah.
processing it in different
Yeah.
ways, right?
And you talked about my cookbook.
Yes.
Well, that cookbook came from crisis.
Okay.
That book was written after my mom passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to find those recipes. I mean, that book came from loss. Let's put it that way. It came from loss and trying to find what was missing after they left. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And so where my grandmother was an amazing baker, she made desserts all the time. She had this like sweet tooth, and then, all the like family stories, because everything was family, 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 and the weekends with family, the summer with family, the week, the Saturday visita coming, and the Sunday, it was like always something going on. Always. There was always something. And when they passed, all of those things ended. They ended. It really did. And so you not only mourned for them and the loss of them in your lives, but then you lost the life you had with them. It becomes to a thing where, so when I decided I was going to write a book with my family recipes, and stories that went along with those recipes, the memories that went with those recipes, because I was writing it for my daughters. I didn't write it for anyone else. I wrote it for my daughters. I didn't care who else read it. It was for my girls.
You were cherishing the memories. You wanted to put the memories on paper so that they would have them.
So when I would do that, I literally would cry. I would cry writing. The whole time I would be writing down those memories, I was crying.
Yeah.
And to me, it was a very cathartic thing to do.
So it was therapeutic as well. It was, you were taking that process of grief, but you transformed it.
Yes. Yes. And that is the honest to God's truth. And what's in all of this, because now, the book has been around for a while now, but I still get messages from people. I mean, the book is loved. And
absolutely.
And where I had always thought, well, it's my family recipes. Who's gonna, other people have their own family recipes. What the heck, they're gonna want mine? But the thing is we're very similar. We're all very similar. We all have those same memories. We all have very similar memories of our family. And so I've had quite a number of people say, I read your cookbook. Number one, I usually don't read cookbooks, cover to cover, and I read your cookbook and it made me cry. And it's really, it's something to hear, that it touches.
It resonates with people.
Yes.
Experiences for different reasons. And I'm sure that also not just sharing your story, but sharing those recipes, you may be also giving some life back to some people that have not had that opportunity to have those recipes and have those memories.
That's exactly it. And they're letting me know, what, after my mom and my grandmother passed away, I never had anything. I don't have family to go back to get these recipes. And now I made your recipe and it tastes and smells exactly like. So do you know, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, because it touches my heart how much that book is loved. And
that's loved continuously, meaning you don't know who it's going to, it's traveled the corners of the earth, and you don't know when it's gonna touch somebody at some point. It's
Yeah.
all going to happen. It's like a
Yeah.
continuous thing.
Yep. I had someone send me a message saying, congratulations on my show, that, how can I see it? I just moved back to the area, but I've had your book for several years. And what's happened is everywhere I've gone, I've brought the book with me. And for some reason or another, a friend of mine has borrowed it and I never got it back.
Oh,
So I've
boy.
I've bought your book like at least 5 times. But there's one in Portugal, mainland Portugal. There's one in Ireland. There's one in the UK. There's one in it's everywhere, and it's really neat. It's really neat, and it's really neat to hear from people in New Zealand, Australia, Portuguese.
Well, I think we, the Portuguese, were everywhere, weren't we?
We are.
We're spread throughout,
We're discoverers, and we're just everywhere.
Exactly. So, at this time of lockdown, if we will, like staying at home, how are you connecting with your loved ones?
Oh, everything is the way we're doing it now. It's it's virtually. And, every once in a while I'll pick up the phone, either one individually, my aunt, my elderly aunt, because she's not going to do this, or, but even Portugal, I'm calling my cousins. It's all, virtually and connecting that way. We have a call every night here at the house when it's like 5:30, 5:45. It's after Bob is done with the work. We set up a conference call, a video conference call, and I get to see my daughter, my granddaughter, and my other 2 daughters. I mean, all 3 daughters and my granddaughter.
Yeah.
So, and then how was your day? What did you do? How did it go?
You're doing this every day.
Every day.
That's awesome.
Every day, because you know what? We're all apart, but I want us to be together always, and always think of us being together no matter how far we're from each other. And I might be overkill doing it day to day, but I need to see their faces. I need to see their faces. They need to see mine and my husband's. We need to kind of like just review the most, anything that's going on in their life right now.
You created a new routine, right?
Yes. And I don't want them to worry. I don't want them, which we all are. I mean, in a state of lockdown, we're all concerned about things, but we keep repeating this to the girls, and I have to repeat it to myself, and that is, we cannot control most of these things. The only thing we can control is how we react.
That is so true.
So it's a type of thing where I think in life, we've always there's always little things to worry about. There's always little concerns. There's always questions on this and that. But I think in our lifetime, in my lifetime, this is the biggest thing ever. And so when you think about all the other stuff that we worried about, that we were concerned about, all these like little innate things that at the time was like the biggest concern for us. Now you think of it and you go, oh my God, that is like not even close, So it kind of helps us with all of this, put a lot of things in perspective in our life,
Well, hopefully to, at these times and certain times in our life, there's always an opportunity to reevaluate. And you had, in another conversation we had, you said the word reset, and that really, just drove home to me, because this is an opportunity for everybody to do that. But it's not just at this time, it's at any time.
Correct.
Right?
But in other times, we know, how can I explain it? We all should always try to do better. Does that make sense? At least in my thing, I always think I need to do better. I need to be, I need to, you know, be a better mom, be a better wife, be a better, be better to myself, be a better, because I always see as myself as, I could do better. Does that make sense?
So do you think, because you have that expectation of yourself, do you think that that has changed in any way? Like, are you expecting more, or are you just still just no?
No.
No.
You know, I think I'm very hard. I was very hard on myself. I've always been very hard on myself.
I think women are in general.
Yeah. And I've always had that, even knowing where my husband is saying, no, honey, it's fine. Like, you know, I love you the way you are. No, you don't need to do that. But it was always in me that I would have to, you know, because I felt like that. Or for my girls, the same way, where they're fine. I don't need to do more for them. You know, they're all adult women. It's not like
they'll always be babies to you. They'll always
but they're my babies. They're my babies. And and they know that I'm always here for them, no matter what. And that's the key thing. They all always know that mom and dad will always be there for them.
Yeah.
And that we love them unconditionally. End of story. And but now with, you know, everything that is going around us, and that, but we cannot forget that reset button. We have to reset. There are things that we've done that we need to improve on. There's always room for improvement. Always room for improvement.
So let me ask you, what do you fear the most?
Oh.
And it doesn't have to be, you know, concerning this, but it can be, you know?
I always plan for, like, let's say, in 5 years, I would love to be, at that point, I can retire. In 5 years, I can retire, you know? I would love to go and spend half of the year in Portugal. I would love to live half of the year in Portugal. I have that in my head. I've always said that. I've always wanted to. I've got dual citizenship. My children have dual citizenship. I already told my oldest, I said, that granddaughter, she better have dual citizenship, because I want her to be able to come back and forth.
You'll get it for her. You'll get it for her.
You darn right I will. And so, are you kidding me? And so and be there with my husband. Those are the things that, the little things of, I want to spend that time that way. And it scares me now that, you know, with the market being the way it is, all the money that we had in our retirement stuff, we've lost a really huge amount. So is that going to be possible? That scares me, that my goals will not be met.
Well,
my goals that I have planned will not.
What goes down must come up.
I love your thinking, but I know it took us like 10 years from the last time we lost all our money. And it took us 10 years to rebuild, to get back to even that, you know? But you're right. What comes up comes down. I'm afraid to lose anyone that I love dearly.
Of course.
That, I think that's really number one. That really is number one. I don't want to lose anyone right now to what's going on. You know, this past week was really hard. I have some acquaintances, some good friends of mine that I used to work with, that, you know, 2 of them lost their moms and 1 of them lost their dad. And, you know, but I'm hearing like younger people, you know, also. And so there's no age limit to this, what's going on. And you've got to be careful for everyone. And so that literally is my number one fear. My number one fear is that I'm scared of is losing any of my loved ones and people that I know and I love. That's number one. Number 2 is that my goals won't be achieved the way that I would like it to be achieved. That maybe I won't get to retire in Portugal like I would like. That's my other.
I think if you keep at it, I think that once, when this subsides, because nothing stays the same,
That is,
that all of that stuff is going to, go back and maybe even better,
yeah,
Um,
you're right. You're right. Because you know what? Even though that was our normal, it didn't
Mhm.
mean that everything that was going on was correct or that was good.
Exactly.
You know, and that's what we can't forget. Just because it was this way doesn't mean it can't be better.
So
And you're right. You're absolutely right.
yeah, so now I want to sort of the flip side. What are you most hopeful for?
Oh my goodness. What am I most hopeful for? Oh, I am just hopeful for people to have their eyes opened.
Yeah.
I'm really hopeful that people can really see what is going on around us, that we are more kinder, and that we are more loving to each other,
Yes.
because we really have to depend more on each other than
Yes.
we actually think we can.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've realized, is that we'd like to think we're such the superior species.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we really are so much more dependent on one another. And we really need to uh, validate that fact and make some changes
Absolutely.
to sort of, work from love and not out of fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I do feel that sometimes things are, it's just where it comes from, that then it's almost like the ripple effect. And I think this is this, trying to reset, the opportunity to reset, um, is really, like you said, open your eyes and see how linked we all are, how
Yeah.
connected we all are. Even if
Yes.
we are apart physically, I mean, I always say that because my family is abroad, is in Portugal, and I'm over here, but I always feel connected to them because of technology and everything.
I feel our connection is linear.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think like the love I have for my family and my friends here, and the love I have for my family and friends in Portugal, it's linear.
Mm-hmm.
It supersedes the ocean. It continues. It's
Yeah.
unending. It really
Yes.
is unending. And
It's an
that's
infinite
it really is.
power,
It
right?
is. It is. It absolutely is. And one of the things I keep saying to people is that with all of that's going on, all of this, is that we need to look down and write lessons learned. The lessons we can learn from this so that we don't forget.
That's a really good point.
You know,
So if you were to sort of sum up and give people 5 tips on how to
okay.
on how to deal with stress and crisis, what would they be?
Yeah. Well, I've got the, as you're saying this, I'm writing some stuff down here and writing down before, so I don't forget anything. But I wrote cooking, painting, yoga. We talked all about all these things.
Yes.
Meditating and prayer,
Mm-hmm.
and making a list. Making a list.
Okay.
A list of things that you want to do when it's over. Because you know what? We can become we can go 2 ways with stress and all of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We can become all of a sudden inside, stay inside,
Mm-hmm.
not learn anything from it. Instead, we're going to retreat in, stay in, become even more closed into people, less trusting. That's when hoarding comes in.
Yeah.
That's when all of this
more fear is the fear.
More fear, all of that stuff, and I'm going to only depend on myself. This is like this is one way we can act with it and see what we're doing. We're holding
Yes.
that's all negative,
all tense, all tense. Right?
That's one way we can deal with it, or we can deal this way.
Yes.
And this way is the way we want to go, because this is the only way we're going to learn. This is the only way we're going to give.
Absolutely.
We're going through a time right now where more people right now are volunteering more than ever before in history right now. So there are people who are giving back, kinder, opening, letting it go. Again, this way or that way. I choose that way.
Right. So it is a choice. It really is.
It is.
And
Absolutely.
I am so grateful to have you in my life. And
so
I'm so grateful that you got to share all of this knowledge and all of this advice and your experiences and stories. And I'm really, really grateful, and thank you so much. And I love you.
Oh, I love you too, honey.
And
I love you.
And I will put in the description whatever things, that's how people can get in touch with you and everything else. And so I just wanted to say thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
I will. Beijing.
Beijing. Kisses,
Bye.
kisses. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. See you next time.